These are my top 10 books of 2024. I know I'm like 2 months late, but you know what? Who cares? Nobody cares. Okay, stop. It's not that serious, dog. I just realized that these are in the reverse order. So number 10 is at the bottom. Give me a second. All right, here we go. I have fixed the stack. Starting off at number 10, we have The Sword of Kaigen by M.L. Wong. This was almost a perfect book. It was emotionally gripping, extremely sad. The action was awesome. This could very well have gone top 5. Without any spoilers, this entire video will be no spoilers. Only issue is that like at the end, for like maybe the last 100 or so pages, it almost feels like you're required to have read another series, and like that was kind of annoying, and that's the only reason why it's not in the top 5. But besides that, this is probably one of the greatest pieces of fiction. Okay, you guys need to read this. In a very short description, this book is about a young man and his mother and what it means to be in one of the most important families in the village, what it means for their powers, what it means for their social dynamics between family members, what it means for their relationship to the village, what their duties are, and what they should be about when it comes to war and what happens when it comes to war. Japanese inspired fire. Read it, guys. The next book is The Adventures of Amina Al-Sarafi. I think it's Amina Al-Sarafi. It says Al-Sarafi. I don't know. I Googled it like a long time ago, and I'm pretty sure from what my memory says that it's Al-Sarafi. This book's amazing. The main character, total freaking Chad. She is a mother who was like one of the most famous or infamous pirates in the world in the Indian Ocean during like, I don't know, the 1400s or something like that. No, it was like during the Middle Ages, maybe. I can't remember. But one day he decides to come out of retirement to save her old friend's daughter. And we just get put through a freaking adventure of politics, monsters, demons, magic, pirates, government antics. It's fire, guys. This is such a fun time. This is book 1. It wraps up very nicely, I think. So you can read it as a standalone, I feel like. There is like 1 or 2 loose ends that will lead into the next few books. But like I said, you can more or less read it by itself and be perfectly content. Solid book. One of the best books I read last year. I mean, obviously, right? Because I'm throwing it on this video, throwing it in this list. Coming in at number 8, we have Legendborn by Tracy Dion. This is a Sir Arthur Knights of the Round Table Camelot retelling in the modern day. This is a YA urban fantasy, so the fantasy takes place in our world in North Carolina. I wasn't too interested in the whole like European style fantasy or whatever, but we get an interesting twist and warp on the European style magic when our main character Bree delves into the magic of her ancestors who were slaves on a plantation in America, and how they choose to use the same-ish abilities as these other colonizers, these white people, but in a different way, and they approach it in a different perspective. That really like captured my attention. And if you like seeing 2 different takes on a singular magic, you'll like this book a lot. This book follows Bree. What the frick is her last name? Bree Matthews. A few months or weeks after her mother dies in an accident. And through that trauma, she's like, I can't handle it here. She goes off to a North Carolina university for an early college program at 16 years old. And she discovers some interesting things are going down at this university, this school. And there seems to be a secret society here. What does a secret society mean? What are they about? Was Bree's mother's car accident more than it seems? Was it not? These are the questions that our main character wants to have answered. Highly recommend. Like I said, it really captured my attention when we got the African-American slave perspective on the same magic system that everybody else uses. Are you enjoying this video? Make sure you like and subscribe. Check out my Linktree. Check out my sponsor. Follow me on all my socials. And yeah, back to the video. The next book, which is number 6, I believe, is The Fury of the Gods by John Gwynne. If you don't know, this is book 3, the conclusion to the Bloodsworn trilogy. Book 1 is The Shadow of the Gods, Norse-inspired mythology, Vikings, pure non-stop freaking action, super amazing animal powers. This is just aura in a novel. Honestly, in my beginner fantasy books for dudes, I feel like I should have put this there in hindsight. Don't know why I didn't. Maybe it's a little bit inaccessible. I think sometimes it's a little bit hard to follow the fights. Sometimes, not a lot of the time, but the action's insane. This story follows 3 perspectives. One is a mother who gets her child kidnapped, so she goes freaking beast mode to freaking find him and get him back. The other follows a young man named Varg, who is an ex-slave, a thrall, as they say. He gets freed and joins a mercenary group called the Bloodsworn, filled with people who are unique in what they can do. And then finally, it follows the daughter of a very powerful Jarl, which is a lord basically of a land, and how she freaking hates her dad and joins another mercenary group called the Battle Grim, and her adventures of dealing with the trials and tribulations that come up with being in a mercenary group. Well, she's already been in it for a while by the time this book starts, but the Battle Grim goes through some shit. So this is the final conclusion. Absolutely gamer, badass moments, freaking giant snake as you think there is. Dragons, rats, eagles. Check this out. An epic conclusion. God tier series. No, that was number 7. My bad. That was not number 6. I don't have this list numbered that I'm looking at right now because I'm a fool. It is what it is. Coming in at number 6, we have The Children of Time by Adrian Tchaikovsky. This book, insane. What an imagination this man has. Honestly, extremely impressive, and levels I one day hope to replicate. TLDR, which probably isn't something I should be saying because you should read the book. Very short synopsis. Many years into the future. Many years in the future. This scientist woman begins a program to create this virus. When injected into animals, with every generation they produce, that animal basically becomes significantly more smarter than the previous generation. So they want to artificially create sentient life. And so when this project is being put into place onto a planet that's already been terraformed via some monkeys that this woman is planning to send down into the planet and inject with the virus, some humans are like, hell no. How about humans and humans only? We don't need any other race of intelligent beings. Humans are superior. So they blow the whole planet up. The monkeys die in transit. The virus falls down too, but crash lands and spills onto some unsuspecting spiders that were originally sent as part of the terraforming process. So over the years, the spiders grow significantly more and more intelligent after each generation, to the point where they're sentient ass spiders, technologically innovating at a crazy rate. Fascinating. Their culture is insane. And so one of the POVs is just generations of a spider and her descendants, and they're all named Portia, and just their scientific endeavors. And then the other perspective is some humans who are trying to find a place to call home, because after that whole fiasco, a nuclear civil war erupted, plunging humans into the freaking dark age, more or less, and they barely come crawling back into technological existence. And so they're like, okay, Earth is freaking shitting itself, and this is no longer survivable. It's not livable. We need to find a place to live. Like, shoot off into the stars and find this planet with spiders on it. What the Sigma? I'm sorry. No, I'm not. So on the human side, though, this is more about internal human conflict than it is dealing with spiders and the obstacles they have to go through before they can actually settle down on this planet. Absolutely goated story. It's just insane, guys. You please read it. Please read it. This is sci-fi at its absolute finest. The next book I have here is another standalone. It is Best Served Cold by Joe Abercrombie. This book is a grimdark story about a mercenary woman who is hired by this duke. She becomes very famous, very popular with the people, and the duke is like, no, we cannot have this. So what does he do? He freaking throws her off a cliff. He breaks all of her bones in her body. She's basically freaking crippled for a long time. She can't use her freaking hand anymore. And she's like, I'm gonna kill this motherfucker. And so the story is a revenge story of her trying to freaking gank his ass and just ruin his life. She's an absolute hoss. A movie adaptation is coming out, and she's being played by Rebecca Ferguson, who, if you don't know, played Paul Atreides' mother in Dune, one of the Bene Gesserit. Yeah, her. Crazy. You guys need to check that out. It's very grimdark. It's people just slowly descending into not madness, but we're like getting there. You know what I mean? Decisions that are being made with a colder heart, and things just go to shit. Honestly, fantastic story. Joe Abercrombie is one, hilarious, and two, just a master of character work. You guys need to read this. Now, hitting the top 3, we have, I don't know if you can tell based on purely how thick this book is, Wind and Truth by Brandon Sanderson. It is book 5 in the Stormlight Archive, the conclusion to Act 1. I'm not going to go into describing the Stormlight Archive. If you're watching this, maybe you probably know what it's about. If you don't, just go read it. Just go read it. It's a necessary piece of reading, okay? This is the conclusion. I'm not going to talk about this for too long because I feel like I've talked about it so much. While it wasn't my favorite Stormlight Archive, I would put it like number 4 out of 5. It still is amazing, and I still love this entire series. I'm very happy with mentally where these characters ended up. The plot was kind of, it was okay. I enjoyed it, but the characters, and I'm a character man first, their character arc conclusions, or maybe midway conclusions, because the story is going to pick up, I was just very satisfied with, very happy. I cried. If it makes me cry, guys, I'm sorry. You know what I mean? It's got to go in the top 10. Just like the Sword of Kaigen did. Read the Stormlight Archive. Book 1 is The Way of Kings, which I'm too lazy to grab, but it's there on my shelf. No, that was book 4, not book 3. What am I doing? I'm throwing. Top 3. Now we're at top 3. We have The Lies of Locke Lamora. Goated heist story. Goated characters. Such a fun time. I love this book so much. I think this series is in my top 5 series of all time. It's just very like down to earth, very human whilst dealing with some non-human things, supernatural things, but like, oh my god, guys, the character dynamics, the plot's amazing. I don't think there's a single bad thing about this book. That's not true. Sometimes Scott Lynch can get really into like descriptions of people and places and things, like 2-paragraph long descriptions. It's a little wild, and honestly, it was hard for me to read at first. So I got the audiobook to go along with it, and that made it a lot easier. And then, you know, about halfway in, I didn't really need the audiobook anymore, but I was still listening to it because I love listening to audiobooks and reading at the same time. Go to read it. This is almost a perfect book. It's just so, you know, honestly, if you're okay with the long descriptions, then it is a perfect book. One of the goats, one of the greats. I have way more faith that he's going to continue on with A Thorn of Emberlane than Patrick Rothfuss or George R.R. Martin with their series. Way more faith. So I do think this one is absolutely worth starting. Now, number 2, and I'm pretty sure this is number 2. I've been messing up the numbering a lot. We have a 2-way tie between Dark Age and Lightbringer from the Red Rising series. I don't know. It's just like, if I really had to pick one, I would probably go with Dark Age, maybe? Yeah, Dark Age. I just like Victra too much in that book. This is the point where I actually truly started to give a shit about the Red Rising series. I read the first trilogy and I was like, this is great. You know, I'm enjoying this. And then I read Iron Gold and I was like, I mean, there was some banger moments, but overall, I was like, I don't know. And then I got the Dark Age and I was like, Zooey mama, the game has just changed. Now, if you guys don't know, the second current trilogy, soon to be quartet, of Red Rising takes place like 10 something years after the first one does. But the first one takes place in the far, far future. Humanity has colonized the solar system and they have split humans, or they have made various types of humans into different classes based off of specific colors. Golds on the top, reds on the bottom, and then you have like greens, pinks, coppers, silvers, bronze, you know, a bunch of colors, violets. And so before Mars was terraformed, the Golds sent the Reds to the planet to get in the mines to mine helium-3 so the terraforming process could begin. That's what they had been telling the Reds down there in the mines for hundreds and thousands or something, a long time. But one day our main character Darrow finds out that Mars has been terraformed actually for a few hundred years. And you all are living down here like dog shit slaves, terrible conditions, just so people up top can live pleasant lives. So he's like, fuck this. And so he goes under some body augmentation to infiltrate the Golds and start a rising, a revolution to change the system. He's a man of democracy and believes that all men are created equal. Now in Dark Age, it is him dealing with many of the same problems. From the first trilogy, we have more POVs and a lot of more interesting characters. Beautiful. Dark Age is when it gets crazy. Victor and my baddie, marry me. Now finally Number 1, Gideon the Ninth by Tamsin Muir. Muir. I saw people saying Muir. I don't know if Muir is right. I say Muir because that's how it's spelled. If it's not, somebody tell me. Just somebody freaking tell me, please. It's perfect in every way. You might not have any idea what's going on for the first 6 chapters, but don't even worry about it. Just accept it and keep reading, okay? That's the only thing I could say. I know I said being confusing might took some points off of Loch Lamora and put it at number 3, but being confusing makes it better, okay? It makes it better. It makes it perfect. There's not a single thing wrong with this book. If you show me any flaws, I'm going to say they're not there. I don't see them. Frick you. Super quick synopsis. This takes place in the far, far future as well. Another sci-fi book that's led by an emperor and governed by 9 houses. And each house has an heir. And each heir has a cavalier, a swordsman, swordswoman. The heir is a necromancer. The cavalier is not. The emperor has a bunch of elite bodyguards called lictors. And they've been getting freaking ganked. Killed off. So he summons all the heirs to his mansion, but he's not actually there. That's not a spoiler, by the way. And he's like, hey, pass these tests to become our new lictors. And they're like, okay, what are the tests? And then they're never told. So it's our main character, Gideon, who is the cavalier to Harrow Hark, known to Jesimus, the heir of the 9th house. And they are trying to figure out what the hell is going on in this mansion, deal with all these people. Is there some fishy shit going on? It's perfect. It's perfect. Just read it. And those are my top 10 books of 2024. Gideon the Ninth became my favorite series of all time when I went on to read Harrow the Ninth. I still haven't read Nona. I'm putting it off because I don't want to catch up. That makes me sad, but I think I'm gonna have to. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you like all my shit, check out all my socials, check out my sponsor, and I'll see you next time.